Hello, all you model railroaders out there. Cal here with another exciting update of my Cheyenne Intermountain Railroad. What today's episode is about, my update is, I'm going to talk about freight waybills and how I do it, or how I'm going to be doing it, and the system I came up with to operate my trains. And and also, I wanted to show you an actual paper layout, paper representation of my track plan. So anyway, getting right down to it, this area that's on the 8.5 by 11 that you see is what's existing now. And this area that I have over here, I'm adding a foot to the width of my layout. So it's going to be a 9 by 4 layout instead of an 8 by 4. And this area here is going to represent the town of Breckenridge for purposes of the layout and purposes of train operation. This area in here is going to represent the town of Durango. And then this area here, and if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I have 3 buildings here. I have a lake over here with Gilligan's Island here. I have a Disneyland train station and Boot Hill, a couple of big mountains over on this side, and this side. So those of you who've seen my previous layouts, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I have a big bridge going back here. Anyway, so for the purposes of the layout, since I'm confined to a 4 by 8, I don't have room to put town after town after town. So I've named my main town, I'm going to name it Fort Collins. Fort Collins is the model city that was used for Disneyland to model Main Street USA at Disneyland. A lot of the buildings there were a little bit more gingerbreaded up to make Disneyland USA, Main Street USA, but they patterned it after Fort Collins and Colorado. So my buildings that are on my layout look a lot like that. So I decided to call my little metropolis Fort Collins. Durango being this area here, okay, and this siding back here is going to be my Fort Collins area, and then this area over here is going to be Breckenridge. So getting to my waybill system, first we'll start off with my cards that I made for my locomotives. Each card that represents each locomotive I made looks like these, and they are they show pictures of the actual locomotive themselves, what they are, what the route carrier is, the number of the locomotive, what type of locomotive it is, and again a little logo I just put on there just to kind of fill up the space of the card. Those are the locomotives, and then I did the same thing for the caboose. There's a Santa Fe caboose, and then the number of the caboose and what type it is. It's the caboose, and it's a Santa Fe caboose. So those are the caboose, and obviously the locomotives that you see here. Now each car that I have is represented, like for an example, here is a tank car. Now the tank car, I'll zoom in on it here. The tank car happens to be a Santa Fe tank car, and the number, and then what type of car it is. It's black. And then here's the freight waybill. Now the waybill, I'm going to pull it out here. Oh, here's I have the color designation so you could see what's going on here. So when you see when it's in its when the waybill is in the car's slot, you'll see that a green means it's loaded, full of for the material that it's carrying, and then it's red means it's empty, okay, and then when it's yellow, it means it's being hold it for loading, and when it's blue, it's hold it for unloading. So when it's in its slot, it tells you what to do. So let's start off with it being number waybill number 1. So I'll zoom in again. Waybill number 1. It tells it. I decided to call my shipping company CalPac, which means Cal Pacific, and Cal happens to be my first name, so I just called my line CalPack. So this car is being shipped from Breckenridge, okay, which is this part of my railroad, to Fort Collins. So I'm going to have to take the tank car from this area here, and it's going to go to Fort Collins. Then while it's in Fort Collins, the next waybill that you look at is you go to waybill number 4. You go to waybill 4. So you switch it over to waybill 4. So it'll be held up in Fort Collins, and it's unloading crude oil. So while it's sitting in crude oil, and if you see it in blue, and it's sitting in its pocket, okay, like this, that means hold. Okay, so you're not doing anything with the card while it's sitting in Fort Collins. Then the next waybill is waybill number 2. So you flip it over to waybill number 2, and it is now going to go from Fort Collins to Breckenridge, and it's empty. So it's going back to from Fort Collins back to Breckenridge. So it's going back from Fort Collins all the way back over to Breckenridge. Well, it'll then again go back to waybill number 3, and it's number 3, and it's going to be at Breckenridge, and it's being loaded for crude oil to start the cycle all over again. So that's how I do my card system. So then to assemble my train, I take these cards, and each card that I have will be assembled. So I take this car, and I take what other car that I'm going to be going along with it. Here's another car that's going to be going to the same place, and another car that's going to the same place. And then I decide on which locomotive I'm going to be using. So I have the locomotive there, and then I have the caboose that I'm going to be using it, and then I attach it all together, and I clip it with a clip like this, and that right there represents my train, and it goes from one area to the next. So that's how I keep a track of what's going on with my trains. Then when I get there, I take the waybill, and while it's in the town of Breckenridge, I'll have a spot in front of my on the front of the actual layout itself for the slot to sit in, and then you could tell by which colors are going to be here what to do with the train. So, or what to do with the train car, I should say. So that's basically how my waybill and operating system is going to work. That's just the way I've thought about doing it. I've seen other ways of doing it on YouTube, but I think this system for me is going to work the best, and I kind of like it. I like the idea of having a little picture and a little diagram of the car itself, and a description of everything, what's going on with that car. Like for an example, this one here, if I could zoom in on it, this one here is going from Durango, heading east to the shipper's hammer mill. It's going to Fort Collins Save-On drugstore, and it's carrying school supplies and paper. So then the next waybill would be go to number 4. So it'll be at Fort Collins Save-On, and it's unloading school supplies and paper. So the next waybill will go to 2, and then number 2 means it's at Fort Collins Save-Ons, and it's going back to Durango, and it's going to be empty. So then the next waybill will be 3. Okay, so then you flip it over to number 3, and then it will be at Durango, and it's going to be loading up school supplies and paper again. Okay, and then it goes back to number 1 again, and it starts the cycle all over again. So it's going to go to Durango, and then back to Fort Collins again, and so forth, and just keep going back and forth. And I can change these waybills, to do whatever I want. I just happen to make these ones out of cardstock. Everything's all out of cardstock, and so that's how these waybills work. So anyway, that's my system, and I'm sure there's better systems out there, different systems, all kinds of different things, but I think this is the way I'm going to operate mine, since my system is going to be really concentrated in a really small area. A lot of people have layouts that obviously are a lot larger than a 4x8, but doing what I can do instead of just watching trains go around in a circle and be bored. I come up with a system to actually work my trains instead of just watching them do nothing, going around in circles. So that way I have a little bit more enjoyment using my model railroad instead of just sitting there watching it go around, around, and around. Anyway, that's my update for December. Thank you for tuning in and watching. I appreciate it, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.